Hi, I'm Claire Edwards. I have the Claire Edwards Law Firm here in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I want to talk today about remaining sensitive to your children's feelings. So I'll be completely transparent. My talking points are from the Dummy's Guide to Getting Divorced, or whatever that is called. So I'm the first to promote any kind of books you find on the shelves of Barnes and Noble or your local bookstore. I highly recommend starting there if you're looking into a divorce or custody proceedings, just to educate yourself and feel aware of what's going on. So this advice is wonderful, and I want to bring it to you. I'm on page 100. And the reason I really want to talk about the remaining sensitive to your children's feelings is because for whatever reason for this past week, I've had a lot of contact with LCSWs, LPCs, those in the mental health profession. The mental health people are allowed to focus on your child. They are allowed to put your child first. They are allowed to help you put your child first. So again, lawyers are very client focused. Therapists have the ability to help you be more child focused. There are lawyers out there who happen to be child oriented. So as a lawyer, I do want to give you some great advice about your kid. When you get divorced, you and your spouse are not the only ones affected by the change in your marital statute. Your divorce means the end of family life as your children know it, which is something that has always been a foundation in their lives and something they've probably always taken for granted. They may experience a change in economic circumstances. They may have to move out of their home and neighborhood, attend a new school, make all new friends. So even if your divorce is good for you, it's going to be a shift for your children. It's going to be a transition for your children. When parents divorce, children often fear they will lose one of their parents or that their parents will abandon them and they will have to fend for themselves. So both parents need to convey in both their words and by example. We all know we have to model to children that they will always be there for the kids. Both parents will always be there for the kids. Also let the children know you love them and appreciate them and make plans with them to do something in the future. And if your children are nearing college age, of course, talk with them about that. Teenagers can be really complicated, especially on those issues, and teenagers' emotions can be very complicated. So the more the parent is in tune with their individual child, the better off the child and parent relationship will be. Here's another fun attorney suggestion to parents, especially those teenage years. Use your school counselors. If I, as mother, have a relationship with my child's counselor that says, hey, have you checked in with my kid? It's been 6 months since the last time you checked in. Just see how they're doing. And the counselor gets back to me, yeah, I checked in with them. I'm not telling you anything about it, but I checked in with them. That is wonderful. That is definitely a green light. That's wonderful. If my ex never ever talks to the counselor, that's probably going to be a little bit more of a yellow flag. The court might notice that if we start litigating. Is that a necessary issue? Is that a very key fact from a legal standpoint? No. But does that help promote a relationship between parent and child for the parent to ensure that that child is on track with their education and with their mental health via the education system? Yes. If you don't tend to your children's needs during your divorce and afterward, you are risking making them victims of your breakup. They might have problems at school, get in trouble with the law, have substance abuse problems, whatever. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to stress that that parent-child relationship should not end even when that parent-parent relationship ends, especially when that parent-parent relationship ends. Because now this child is navigating two different relationships, whereas maybe y'all used to feel like one relationship to them. Especially for me as a parent of small kids, my 4-year-old still calls me and my husband mommy daddy. Mommy daddy, open up my fruit snacks. Mommy daddy, I need cereal. He really doesn't distinguish between the two of us because he knows we're both there to care for his needs. Research also shows that parents who openly express their hatred, anger, feelings of betrayal, or desire for vengeance, feelings that many couples have toward one another, unwittingly program their kids to be unhappy as adults with troubled marriages of their own. Parents also harm their children by manipulating them in order to gain the upper hand in custody negotiations or litigation, or to get back at the other spouse. Couples who use their children as pawns in their divorce games put their children in a terribly difficult and unfair position because most children love both of their parents equally. The takeaway from that entire paragraph is most children love both of their parents equally. If your children have gone through a divorce before, don't assume it's going to be easier for them the second time around. The second divorce may trigger those prior emotions, and so they're going to reach back to that first trauma that they experienced. Because your children will be older than they were when you got divorced the first time, their emotions may even be more intense. They may experience new emotions that may cause them to respond differently to your second divorce. Generally, when we're reading print or when I'm educating people via the internet, I'm talking about young children, minors, under age 18. But parents who have late life divorces, certainly, obviously, I would hope it goes without saying, your children are going to be impacted as well. So even though you've got this kid who has professional degrees and is living this wonderful professional life, they're not a kid anymore. They're in their 30s. They probably have kids of their own. Your divorce in some way will probably still impact that person. To help monitor how well your children are coping with the news of your divorce, try to spend some extra time with them, but not in an interfering way. For example, spend more time in the same room with them than you usually do, so you can watch their behavior and be more attuned to them when they're in your car with you, when you're sharing meals, and so on. Also, the time you spend with your kids gives them an opportunity to express their feelings and concerns about how your divorce will affect their daily lives. So when you're in tune with your kid, and the word is attunement, ATTUNEMENT, it's a psych word. It means being on the same wavelength, emotionally and relationally. But in tune with, IN space TUNE, like a car radio that is properly tuned, or a guitar that is properly tuned. It's the same concept. It's being on the same wavelength as your kids, listening to them, being an open receptor to what it is that they're saying. I went to a psych conference on Friday, and one child had a major issue with daddy not using the same fabric softener that daddy used to use when he lived with mommy. So the child just didn't feel in place and needed those similar smells. It's obviously a given that mama's house and daddy's house are going to smell different, but if that one child has that one fabric softener on her pillow or towel or sheets, that's just a little bit of familiarity to help keep that kid more in tune with himself or herself. And that in turn allows the parents to be in tune with the children's needs. Are they getting the kinds of foods that they need? Are they experiencing the same social situations that the parents want their children to have to succeed, and the same educational opportunities the parents want their children to have to succeed? Although your children may appear to be coping well, do not assume that they're not having trouble or will not have trouble later on. So assumptions are different from attunement. Again, if I can get some post effects in here, assumptions and attunement, they're not the same thing. Assumptions are when you just kind of stick an idea in your head and assume it's in your child's head. Attunement is when you are fully aware of what your child is thinking and feeling, and you honor that. Watch for any mood swings or changes in behavior that may signal emotional problems. When I say watch here, I don't necessarily mean report to your lawyer right away. I truly mean watch, and if you keep a written journal, great. If you just keep mental notes, that's fine too. I'm going to draw back to those younger kids because that's my personal experience right now. My 2-year-old right now in 2022 has terrible twos. Back when I had a 2-year-old in 2020, he was I hate to say an adult, but that's kind of his personality. He did not struggle with terrible twos. He did not throw himself on the floor. So if I am watching for any mood swings or changes in behavior that may signal emotional problems, that 2-year-old I have now, I have to keep track of what is it that's triggering his throwing himself on the ground. 9 times out of 10, it's food related. So as long as it's always food related, I know what's going on with this kid. For that 1 out of 10 times, if it's an emotional thing, I need to be there for him as a parent to soothe him so he can learn self-soothing in the future. And that's what I'm trying to impress upon parents who are watching this is pay attention to what it is that your kids need and how are they showing you that they need it. And trying not to shut them down, even if it's as vulgar as throwing oneself on the floor. Showing him I love him is what is necessary right now. Touch base periodically with their teachers and caregivers to find out whether they've noticed any problems. And so we've already talked about checking in with school counselors. Obviously, the same goes for teachers. And if you have a kid on a 504 or an IEP plan, definitely keep that admin involved in what's going on. Keep the other parent involved in what's going on. That's going to be incredibly important. And thank you so much for tuning in. I am Claire Edwards at the Claire Edwards Law Firm. And today we covered remaining sensitive to your children's feelings.